He always carried it with him, tucked in the back of his belt, but he never imagined for a moment that he would have to use it in such a strange situation. The trouble with his slingshot was that he needed a stone to put in it. Pathos desperately looked around for something he could use. There were no little stones or pebbles on the sandy floor of the Colosseum, but he did find a round blue jewel that had fallen out of Gundar's belt during the fight with him earlier. Placing it inside the leather pocket of his sling, Pathos began swirling it around his head to get some speed. The tiger's back legs began to shuffle, a clear sign that he was getting ready to run across the arena and pounce on the Emperor. Pathos knew he had to make his only shot count. Just as the tiger sprang through the air, Pathos released the sling. The blue jewel struck the tiger right on the end of his nose. All the hours that Pathos had spent practicing with his slingshot as a boy had paid off. The tiger was completely shocked and ran away yelping towards the far end of the arena. The crowd that had been silently watching all this now broke into a rapturous applause. Pathos slowly turned around and looked at the crowd. 60,000 people cheering and shouting saluted the hero of the Colosseum. The Emperor now got back to his feet and was quickly surrounded by the Praetorian Guard, his own personal bodyguard. Pathos and Gundar were also surrounded and watched as the Emperor was escorted out of the arena to the sound of trumpets blaring and the crowd cheering. The two gladiators were then marched out and taken back to their cells at the gladiator school. There they were both bathed, massaged, and given a magnificent feast. The next morning, Pathos was ordered to the palace. Pathos had never been allowed to walk alone through the streets of Rome before. Usually he was shackled to other gladiators and guarded as he was escorted to the Colosseum. Taking his time, as he walked through the city streets, he looked at all the fine buildings and statues. After climbing the marble steps, he finally reached the Emperor's palace. Once there, he was told to wait for an audience with the Emperor. The view of Rome from the imperial palace was spectacular. After an hour, the Emperor came to welcome Pathos to his home. He walked towards the person who had saved his life only the day before with open arms. Standing in front of each other, they could have been brothers. From the extreme ends of Roman society, the Emperor and the gladiator slave talked for hours about their interesting and varied lives. Pathos was asked what he wanted as payment for saving his life. Solo told him that all he wanted was to be a free man. The Emperor thought that a very small price to pay for saving him from the ravenous jaws of a tiger the day before. As a symbol of his freedom, the Emperor gave him a wooden gladiator sword called a rudis. It meant he no longer had to fight and was free to go anywhere in the empire. The Emperor also heaped gold and jewels on him. Solo then summoned up all his courage and asked the Emperor if he could have his daughter Sulina as his wife. They had been talking to each other through the bars of the gladiator school for some time and had fallen madly in love. The Emperor smiled and hugged them both, saying it would be his honour to have such a brave and loyal son-in-law. Pathos and Sulina were married a few days later in a great ceremony, the likes of which the Roman public had never seen before. As husband and wife, they made a home in the beautiful countryside of northern Italy and lived happily ever after. The end.